So Throne and Liberty has been out for over a month now, since its global release launch of October the 1st. It did have early access for a week prior to that, but let's not consider it for now. Let's have a look at some player numbers, how they've been going over this past month, compare versus some other games at their peak times, and overall, how does the health of the game look? Let's also dive into some news and updates with regards to some issues that are currently plaguing the servers. The developers posted a bunch of numbers for the first month in Silesia, and we can see the total hours played is a whopping 133 million, with over 4.5 million unique players. If we simply look at that, the average player has played over 29 hours. That's not an insignificant amount, all things considered. However, it does lead you to show that the average player has played less than 1 hour per day. We did get some other numbers, but they're not exactly that meaningful. But let's have a quick look at what, say, the Steam numbers say. And we find the all-time peak was about 336,000 players. Again, that's at any one time playing this game. So the total per day is going to be like at least 10 times this amount, depending on how long those players actually play. But we can see we've dropped from that peak all the way down to now at about 125,000, with the average 24-hour peak being about 156,000. So yes, we've lost like half the players in 1 month. If we do compare that versus some other games, it's not that bad and it seems about average. New World starts out with a max peak of like 913,000 and ends up a month later at below half that, 377,000. Lost Ark, similarly about 1.3 million players, and a month later about half that at only 640,000. There are some other games, let's say the peak time of Final Fantasy, this was around the free time at like December 2021. They had a peak of like 95,000 and then we're still a month later at like 64,000. Not the worst. Black Desert doesn't do too well on Steam, but like had a 60,000 player peak here due to having like a free weekend, but that dropped off significantly. And just be aware, all these games do have like different launchers, and so does Throne and Liberty. Like not all the players are playing through Steam. You have those on consoles as well. And yeah, we can even look at Guild Wars 2, but that's totally not performing well on Steam at all, even though we know it is a pretty well performing game. But just looking and comparing those, we can see from their maximum peak to then say their 24-hour peak a month later, Throne and Liberty has lost about 53% of its players. Lost Ark was about 51%, New World was about 58%, Final Fantasy, if we want to include that, was like 32% during its peak time, and Black Desert was like a 78% loss in players. But those last two, I wouldn't really include them here in a good comparison. But we can see Throne of Liberty doesn't look too different compared to those other games. And they all seem to, die eventually. We all have this peak and then players are going to drop off slowly. It's just all about player retention, and we may get like a spike when we get new content. We can already see the roadmap that they posted a while ago. We've had all of the October updates here, but we can see what's expected in November will be our big new Castle Siege event. That will begin throughout this final milestone. So those of us on early access will get that event a little bit sooner. Should be pretty exciting. New content, Siege War, as you can see here with this milestone. And guilds who enter the top 20 will take away like a title, Pantheon of the Strongest. And if you do manage to take the castle, you'll be part of the First Legion. But the next big update will be within December. As they state here, it will be packed to the brim with significant pieces of new content, a ton of exciting experiences and adventures. This could be potentially when we get the new tier of dungeons, the new tier of gear, but we will have to see. And again, we'll have a look at what happens with the player base then. Throne and Liberty did come out with some decent numbers, but still, it's not going to be as much as the peak player base that Lost Ark had. But if you look now, Lost Ark is at about 25,000 average concurrent players. New World dropped significantly down to like 5,000, and then they kind of soft relaunched the game and they're at a healthy 37,000. So this is what happens to all of these games, and I think New World definitely suffered the most. Like a few months in and they're already down to just like 20,000 players. But again, we'll see what happens with Throne of Liberty over these next few months. It is a free-to-play game, so it does have that benefit that anybody can join and try it out, but it does have the pay-to-win aspect. Anybody can join the game, cash in getting thousands of Lucent, and just instantly buy the best stuff from the auction house. Yes, you're buying it from other players and not exactly from the game itself, so other people do benefit from you doing that, which does mean the currency is not going out of the economy straight away, and the things they do sell on their store is mainly just cosmetic items. They don't even sell quality of life on their shop here. Other than, you could argue, increasing inventory space for Lucent is selling quality of life, but they don't have, let's say, a VIP system, and overall, the pay-to-win aspect is not that bad unless you're going into hardcore PvP. Then you probably do feel the negatives of it, because somebody with maxed out gear is going to absolutely just dominate you if you're still on, say, blues or something. But let's get into some issues the game's been having. Do not open your precious blessing pouches when your inventory is full, as some items do not correctly get captured into your overflow and can just get deleted. So make sure you have enough inventory space before opening them, and otherwise wait for them to fix it. Now, many of you have been complaining about like guild versus guild time, and also the change to when, say, the field bosses is happening, because we recently just had daylight time saving, at least in Europe, which made this schedule not align properly with our own schedule, and now it's all happening an hour earlier. This can lead to, specifically with the Boonstone events, people not being able to attend because they're still at work, like 5 o'clock. Honestly, the time should get pushed over to like 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, as more likely people will be able to attend. But make sure you're leaving your feedback. If you check the notice board here, you should be able to take the survey. Personally, I've had a movement issue. Like, you'll load into a new area after your little bit of a loading screen, and then you can't move. Like, your whole camera and screen stutters and shakes, and you can't move until you say jump. Don't know if any of you else have been having that. I would say I'm dissatisfied about character movement. I'm fairly satisfied with the UI and menus, and I would like more controls and commands, so I'm a little bit dissatisfied there. Here they asked that question for the time, and yes, I would say they happened too early. So make sure you're leaving that feedback too if you're having that problem. Moving on from that, you can see why guilds lock down conflict bosses. You can take away like Tevant's weapon and split that between 51 players in your guild, and they all get over 2,000 Lucent. I don't think it's a bad thing, because the game does have quite a lot of PvP, and I think it needs that bit of a focus, and it's okay as long as those rewards are able to be obtained in other areas. It shouldn't be like the top guild who has the most PvP dominance is the ones that are always going to be that. There should be enough ways for other players to get those items in other areas and be able to then contest. Like, guilds should not be able to organize having like tons of alliances and end up dominating as a result, or you end up with a server where everybody's friends with the top guy, or you're just nobody and you just leave the server. So there needs to be systems in place that can counter that and basically prevent people from colluding that much. You should have your guild, and that's pretty much it. You should be against everybody else, and that creates a more interesting dynamic rather than everybody being friends with everybody. But yes, there should always be opportunity for people who don't want to play PvP to still be able to get the best stuff in the game. There's also an issue where people are getting killed while they go into your like fun morph. Like this right here. If I am in this morph, somebody could target me and kill me, even though I'm in a peace zone. That is definitely a bug that needs to be fixed. So whenever you use shapeshift, like people for the memes were switching into boars and somebody comes along and uses a flash wave and they're all dead. I had this happen to me while I was having a bit of fun in this form at, say, a field boss. And then bam, I'm dead. I messaged the guy and he said they had no idea what happened. So just be careful if you're going into your morph form. You could die. Here's some just interesting notes with regards to heals and crits. And one thing in particular that caught my eye is the fact that if you go in stealth, you will be able to land critical heals. Even if you, say, use your Fountain of Life, you go in stealth, and now all of your heals should be critical. To be honest, they're not actually healing me, so I can't really test. I need somebody else. But that's what it states here. So you can check that out. And that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover in this video. We have gone and lost, about half the player base in over a month, which is not that far off from what other games have too, so I wouldn't be that worried. But compared to, say, Lost Ark or New World, we did only start out with like 330,000 people. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.